Hello everyone, welcome back guys. So Grishma says when will the class end? Class will end at 8 p.m. So we'll have one more break at around 6:50 and we'll end our class at 8. Oh, Australia win by, of course, we know the amazing performance by Australia, right? It seems their target was to win the match in 10 overs only. They just missed their target by a couple of balls. Anyway, let us wait for a couple of minutes and then we'll begin our discussion. Lame duck session. Shiv, lame duck session basically is when, now, this concept is not really something that works in India. The previously elected MPs who failed to get re-elected and then they sit in a session. When any session takes place after the elections are over and before the newly elected Lok Sabha meets, in that session, those MPs who failed to get re-elected are called lame ducks, and hence the word lame duck session. Okay. Any strategy for learning articles? Arjun, the only strategy is revision. What you can also do is incorporate solving questions. The more questions you solve, the better it is going to be when it comes to learning the articles. That's it. Okay, let's begin now. Others can keep on joining. First up, we have some specific kind of motions. Beginning our discussion with something called no confidence motion. Now, no confidence motion is a motion which can be introduced and is available only for Lok Sabha. This motion cannot be used in the Rajya Sabha. Only Lok Sabha. Okay. Now, what is no confidence motion? What is this word confidence? No confidence also means that the members of the lower house, House of People, Lok Sabha, they do not have any belief, any confidence in the ministers, in the government. So basically, to keep on being a part of the government, you have to enjoy a majority in the Lok Sabha. Eventually, whoever controls the majority in the Lok Sabha is able to form the government and continues with the government formation. But at any given point of time, if you do not have the majority in the Lok Sabha, or the opposition feels that you don't enjoy the majority in Lok Sabha, then they can initiate a proposal, and that proposal will be called a no confidence motion. So opposition MPs, not one or two, mind you, at least 50 MPs will have to give a notice to the presiding officer, right? And the presiding officer will look at the notice, and no reason is required. Why do you want to give this proposal? No reason needs to be mentioned. Even if you give a reason, we will see the presiding officer says, I don't want to know the reason. If the opposition people say that we have lost the confidence in the government, this government does not enjoy our confidence. Sorry, they don't have majority. We want to test. Let's check the majority. Meaning what? Let's have voting. If more people support us, then we win the no confidence motion. Then government should resign, because more people do not have faith in the government. More people vote against the government, right? That is called no confidence. Meaning the House expresses its want of confidence in the Council of Ministers. They no longer will be allowed to form the government. Why? Because more people don't want them to form the government. That is what you are testing. This no confidence motion is mentioned in the Lok Sabha rules, rule number 198. Okay. So it can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha. It can be introduced once per session. 50 MPs have to give a notice of its introduction, the proposal, and no grounds are required. Why do you think the government has lost the confidence? It came in my dream yesterday night. There is no need to give any reason. Okay. Now, this no confidence motion cannot be brought against single minister. You can't say, I don't like that minister, I don't have confidence in him. No, no. You can bring this motion against the entire council only, not against a single minister. Okay. And once this motion is brought, speaker allows for it, voting happens. If more MPs vote in favor of the motion, meaning what? You're against the government. If the NCM is passed, government has lost the majority, it should resign. Because Council of Ministers do not have majority. Now, one very interesting point. In the first class, I had mentioned that in our country we have a lot of conventions, customs, practice. One such practice, if the government loses no confidence motion, of course you would say, sir, it is very, very logical that the government should resign. Is it mentioned anywhere? No. It is nowhere mentioned that if I am the government and I have lost the confidence, I should resign. It is not mentioned. That is why must ideally resign. Because it is not mentioned anywhere that if the government loses no confidence motion, it has to resign. But of course, if you try to act over smart, you have lost the NCM, but still you are saying, no, no, I will not leave, I will not leave. Then the president will come and kick you out. That get lost, all of you. You have lost the confidence of the House. And the president will give somebody else the opportunity to form the government. That is called no confidence motion. Now, see, as far as NCM is concerned, some facts. 27 NCMs have been introduced so far. How many NCMs? 27. NCM is no confidence motion. So 27 NCMs introduced so far. How many were passed? Never passed. Not a single no confidence motion has ever been passed. Ever. First NCM to be introduced was against Pandit Nehru in 1963. So basically, J.B. Kripalani introduced the NCM against Nehru, saying that Nehru and his government has failed to protect the Indian borders in the Indo-China war. We want to remove them. But it could not be passed because all the MPs, Nehru enjoyed confidence of the House. I think at that point of time, 61 MPs voted against in favor of NCM and 346 voted against NCM. Nehru enjoyed majority in the House. There is a record against Indira Gandhi. This NCM has been introduced maximum number of times, 15 times. How many times was it passed? Never. Never passed. And last in 2018. That is against whom? Against the current Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Of course, could not be passed. Against Narendra Modi, if I'm not wrong, July 2018, in the monsoon session, 135 people voted in favor and 330 people voted against. Come on. Narendra Modi enjoys a majority in the Lok Sabha. All the people are 300 plus BJP MPs are there. They always vote in favor of BJP only. And in a no confidence motion, you cannot vote against your party. Since 1992, in a no confidence motion, you cannot vote against your party. So if any government enjoys majority or it has more MPs, then of course, it will never be passed. I think the closest we have ever come to it almost getting passed was in 1990s against PV Narasimha Rao. I think 251 people approved it and 265 people were against it. So narrowly escaped. And I think there's only one Prime Minister who has been a PM for full 5 years, against whom not a single time was it introduced. That was Dr. Manmohan Singh. While he was a PM for 10 years, not even once was a no confidence motion introduced against him. So that is there. This is called no confidence motion, and the voting here is by a simple majority. I'm repeating, in no confidence motion, voting is through a simple majority. Okay. Now, coming to this exact opposite of a no confidence motion, that is called trust vote. Now, you may not know trust vote, but you would know when I write this word. Have you heard of this word? Floor test or a confidence motion. So what happens is a no confidence motion is introduced. A no confidence motion is introduced by opposition against the government, but confidence motion or a trust vote or a floor test is done by government. Now you will say, why should the government do it? Sometimes when you don't have majority, the governor or the president will ask you to prove the majority. So after the election, voting takes place, right? Floor test. Who controls the floor? Floor what? Meaning what? Not the dance floor, parliament's floor, Lok Sabha's floor. Meaning what? Who controls majority? That is called floor test, to check who enjoys the majority in the Lok Sabha. So it is always introduced by the ruling party. Again, this is also a motion which is only brought in Lok Sabha. Why? Because government formation is taking place in Lok Sabha only. Which article? Please write quickly without wasting time. Which article states that the government will be formed in Lok Sabha? Based on which article do we say that government is formed in Lok Sabha? I want the article and the clause. The Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the House of People. Now write the article and clause. Not a single correct answer so far. Some people have mentioned the article, not the clause. It is Article 75, Clause 3, collective responsibility. So this is trust vote. Trust vote also takes place only in the Lok Sabha. Now, Trust vote may be passed, may not be passed. So it is introduced by the ruling party to check majority. That means it wants to show that we enjoy majority in the house. Okay? And if you lose the trust vote, you better resign. I'll give a very interesting example. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he actually in 1996 won the election and formed the single largest party. He wanted to form the government. The president says, okay, no problem, form the government, but prove the majority within a specific period of 10 days or whatever period. Now, what happened? Atal Bihari Vajpayee, he said, okay, I'll prove the majority, and started talking to other parties that I'm going to go for confidence motion. Please vote for me. Please vote for me. And no parties said we will support you. After 10, 12 days, 13 days, Atal Bihari Vajpayee said, sorry, I'm resigning from the post of Prime Minister because I cannot prove my majority. Resigned. Without facing trust vote. Then, in 1998, Atal Bihari Vajpayee had formed the government along with the support of AIADMK, Jayalalitha. So people from Tamil Nadu would know. And after forming the government for roughly 13 months, Jayalalitha withdrew the support. So he was a PM for 13 months. Atal Bihari Vajpayee was a Prime Minister for 13 months. Then Jayalalitha took back the support. Now opposition said, sir, please prove your majority. He said, okay, let's go for trust vote. One day was decided and trust vote happened, voting happened. And in this particular trust vote, 269 people voted in favor of Vajpayee and 270 people voted against him. He lost the trust vote by one vote and he had to resign from the post of Prime Minister. Then finally president said that let's go for fresh elections. Nobody can form the government. In 1999, elections happened. Then Vajpayee finally won the elections and followed or formed a full-fledged government for 5 years. This is called a trust vote. Okay, so that is called trust vote or floor test or confidence motion. Okay. Now, next is motion of thanks. So I was discussing yesterday only that there is something called Article 87. In Article 87, what happens is the president gives a mandatory speech. Remember, mandatory speech of the president. Who do you think prepares the speech? Do you think the president prepares the speech? Even that speech is not prepared by him or her. The government prepares the speech. That's the situation, that even the speech is not prepared by the president. The president is given a speech. Basically, the motion of thanks is the president's speech, which is prepared by government. It lists all the achievements, policy achievements, and it also mentions the agenda for future agenda. Now, once the president delivers this speech, some MP from the House ruling party will take the speech and table the speech in the parliament in the form of a bill or a proposal, where people have to vote on this proposal. Okay, this is called motion of thanks or vote of thanks. And as per the constitution says that the house can make rules for discussion on the president's speech. House can make rules for discussion on president's speech. Now, there are certain elements involved here. When the president gives a speech, it is a speech prepared by the government. President is not allowed to modify the speech. No change is allowed. You can't offer your own comments. Amazing, Modi ji, what speech? Wah, amazing. You can't do all this. Just come, read the speech, go home. That's it. Yes, if in the speech there is something which is against you only, if the line is written, president is not working at all, you can skip that part. Okay? If something which is violating the decorum of the house is there, you can skip the part. But you cannot change the speech. Okay? You have to read the speech. Speech is put in the form of a proposal. All the members of the house discuss, because this speech is a government's policy achievements. What all great things government has done in the last 1 year. So MPs have to agree also. You can't simply tell the president, sir, read a speech, and all lies are there. Best form possible government. All people are rich now. Poverty line has been removed now. Only 1% people are below poverty line. Food in everybody's on everybody's plate. The average income is 1 lakh rupees per month. You can't make all these false claims. House will discuss on the speech. Every claim made by the government is discussed by the house, and the speech has to be passed by both the houses. But modifications are allowed. But if the Lok Sabha does not pass the speech, the proposal, then it may amount to no confidence. But anyway, in the Lok Sabha, government has majority. Why will it not be passed? It will always be passed. But in case the motion of thanks or vote of thanks is not passed in Lok Sabha, then the government may have to resign. How can a speech prepared by the government not get passed in the Lok Sabha, wherein in the Lok Sabha the government has the majority? So that is why it is mandatory for the motion of thanks to be passed in the Lok Sabha. It is mandatory. It's not optional. It has to be passed. I hope this point is clear. This is called motion of thanks, and it is introduced in both the houses separately, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. If the motion of sorry, if the motion of thanks is not passed in Rajya Sabha, no problem. No problem. But in Lok Sabha, it must be passed. This is called motion of thanks. Now, next motion is adjournment motion. Adjournment motion is also a motion which is introduced only in the Lok Sabha. Only Lok Sabha. Right? Now, see, at any given point of time, see, in the morning from 11 to 1 o'clock, you can ask questions from the ministers, you can ask questions from the government, etc. Question hour, 0 hour, all the drama is there. But after 2 p.m., let's say you want the house to discuss on some very important matter. Let us say you want the house to discuss on what is going to be India's stand on Pakistan's failure as a state, or what is going to be India's stand on China, right? Or what is going to be India's stand on the current issues going on with respect to Russia and Ukraine. So at that point of time, see, every day in the parliament, the agenda is fixed. Everything is fixed. There's no surprise. At 11 a.m., the speaker comes and sits. 11:05, that MP has to ask a question. 11:10, that MP has to ask a question. 12:05, that MP asks a question. 12:20, that MP. Every time is fixed. 2 o'clock, that minister will raise the bill. 2:30, that minister will read the bill. 2:45, that minister reads the bill. The entire agenda is fixed. But suddenly, if some very important activity happens in the country, right, and the House wants the government's response on what steps the government is going to take on that, then the House can simply say, 50 MPs can get up and give in writing that, sir, please adjourn all this debate, bill discussion. It can happen tomorrow. We want to discuss on this matter. What is India's stand on against China? What is India going to do? Right? The House can discuss what is going to happen after Natu Natu has won the Oscar. What is the next step? How to promote regional cinema in the country? So, in that situation, the debate will take place. The entire agenda for the day is suspended. It suspends the agenda of the day, and debate happens on the topics highlighted in the motion. Okay. And you cannot ask random kind of topics. For example, sir, why did please government respond? Why did India lose the one day match on Sunday? This is not government responsibility. You please ask the Indian cricket team or BCCI. Don't ask government. So you can only raise a topic which is a government's responsibility. Now, mind you, once the discussion on adjournment motion starts, minimum discussion time is 2.5 hours. It cannot be a small topic. You have to discuss for at least 2.5 hours. And this 2.5 hours is mandatory. So let's say at 5:55 p.m., back in your school days, you had to have all these students. Just before the teacher was about to leave the class, somebody would get up and say, Madam, doubt. You know how you would hate that student? Same thing here. If at 5:55 p.m. all the MPs are yawning, now they are planning to go back to their homes, rooms, etc., to enjoy party, drink, and all. Suddenly, somebody, 50 MPs get up and say, Sir, adjournment motion. Then the House will have to continue for the next 2.5 hours, and debate and discussion will take place. Government will have to respond for 2.5 hours. That is why MPs normally, if they want to do this, they'll do it at 2:30, 3 o'clock only. They know very well, right? Nobody wants to stay till 8 o'clock. That's there. This is called adjournment motion. Now, next is something called a privilege motion. So somebody was asking in the morning, what if some MP uses derogatory language or something of this sort? What do we do? So see, every MP in the House has complete right, full right and authority to express his or her opinion on everything. But sometimes emotionally, see, for example, I gave the example of how one Azam Khan made a negative kind of statement against the deputy chairperson, right? He had to apologize. Sometimes in the House, while giving a speech, you use some negative derogatory word, misbehavior in the House, shouting, fighting, throwing things here and there. It may happen. So what are you doing? You are breaching the privilege of the parliament. Privilege, benefit given to you that you can sit and speak on any topic you want. Uh, I think you have been given a feedback form for the economics classes, I believe. So kindly fill up the feedback form. Yeah, coming back now. So as we are discussing about this particular point, let's say you are giving a speech, and while giving a speech, you become very excited and use some negative word, abusive word, or maybe you make some false allegations, because the House is a place where MPs are given the right to speak freely. This does not mean you start misbehaving. The place has a decorum, right? So, for example, recently what happened? And also, as an MP, your behavior should behoove of a member of parliament. So recently, what has happened is one great leader of our country, the most eligible bachelor, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, he went on an international platform, and let us not discuss on who organized it and who is funding it and all that. But anyway, he went on an international platform and started cribbing about India, making statements that when we ask questions, our mics are switched off, all this. And he also, in a very subtle way, made a reference that UK, USA, you should intervene to protect democracy in India. UK and USA will intervene to protect democracy in India. Firstly, we don't need some intervention. Number two, UK and USA are the last countries to protect democracy. We have seen the havoc that USA has wreaked all over the globe, right? Causing disturbance in the Middle East, causing disturbance here and there. So we can't expect them. Secondly, UK is one of the worst countries to be expected to support democratic norms in India. I think they have forgotten about the 200 years of suppression in the recent times. Anyway, so you went outside as a member of parliament and tried to lower the dignity of the country and also had shown bad behavior. So any MP can get up and say, sir, this fellow, he breached the decency and decorum of the house of the country. I want to raise a privilege motion against him. Because he's MP, he has a right to speak about the country. He is misusing the right. Or recently, in the response to Rahul Gandhi's speech, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a remark that why are they not using the title of Nehru? That is also wrong. See, Indira Gandhi is not using the title of Gandhi of Mahatma Gandhi. Her husband was Feroz Gandhi, right? And the spelling of Gandhi was slightly different. But that is there. Feroz Gandhi was the husband of Indira Gandhi, and she was using that title. It does not come from Mahatma Gandhi. So please don't make such negative kind of remarks. It is not justified. In our country, what happens is that normally the male title or surname flows through, right? That is how it is. So that is the reason why Indira Gandhi did not use the title Nehru. And that is the reason why they don't use the title Nehru, but Gandhi. It is not from Mahatma Gandhi, it is from Feroz Gandhi. So don't make all these stupid kind of remarks. It is completely useless to make these remarks. That is also a breach of privilege. Why are you making such remarks undermining a member of parliament? So some Congress MPs like KC Venugopal, he has said, I want to raise a privilege motion against Narendra Modi. So this is how you raise a privilege motion. When any MP has tried to cross that boundary and disrespect some member of the house, the country at large, the parliament, etc. Like a few years back, I think last year only. So there is a TMC MP called Mahua Moitra. I'm sure a lot of you would be aware of her, and some of you would be great fans also, because in our country, if you speak in English very well and you are presentable, you are an amazing person. That is how it is seen. Whether you talk some sense or not is of nobody's concern. Anyway, so Mahua Moitra, in one of the speeches in the parliament, she gave a speech referring to the judiciary. And she was referring to the current member of the parliament, Justice Ranjan Gogoi, and she said that judiciary is no longer the same holy cow as it used to be. Now, Mahua Moitra has been known to make some speeches, sometimes correct, sometimes completely incorrect, copying from here and there. But this time, her statement was absolutely correct, because she was referring to Justice Gogoi, where an allegation was made against him while he was a Chief Justice of India of sexual harassment. And when the allegation was made, Justice Gogoi was a part of a committee looking into the complaint against him only. Later on, he stepped down from the committee. So she was alluding to that particular reference also. Now, all the MPs said, oh, privilege motion, privilege motion. Why? Because you cannot criticize or you cannot discuss the conduct of judges in the parliament. It is not allowed. But this is an example of a privilege motion. Or sometimes some great things happen in our country. In Karnataka, few years back, you'd be surprised to know, in the Legislative Assembly of Karnataka, on the floor of the house, while the discussions were going on, a few MPs were watching some indecent videos on their mobile phone. This is the level of our legislators. What can we say? This is what it has now come down to. Now, when you breach all this trust, decency, decorum of the house, what happens? Some MP can raise a privilege motion against you, and then the speaker may accept it, may reject it. Once the speaker accepts it, then the speaker can ask some 5-10 MPs, sir, please form a committee, look into his behavior and report to me. Report is prepared. Based on the report and based on your behavior, some action can be taken. That action can be suspension. For 5 days you are suspended, like in school. Scolding can happen, right? You can be scolded also. Sometimes if your behavior is very bad, you can be expelled also, meaning removed, membership is removed. That is also done. This is called a privilege motion. It can take place in any house. And also, the most basic form is something called expunction. What is expunction? So, when you give a speech, every year the parliament releases a list of words which are called unparliamentary words. You can't use certain words like chor, ghatiya, right? All these words. You can't use these kind of words. Don't think of the bigger words. That is not possible. You can't use even these words in the parliament. Okay? So, if let's say you're giving a speech and you use some kind of negative word, then the speaker or the chairman can simply say, from the speech, that word will be removed. That is called expunction. Unparliamentary words being removed or expunged, same thing, from going on record. This is called expunction. And this order issued by whom? The presiding officer. This is called a privilege motion. So sometimes if you don't behave properly, it can also result in what? It can also result in your removal as a member of parliament. Okay? Now, one very important motion. Now, privilege motion can take place in both houses, Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, because any MP can misbehave, Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. Next motion, which can take place again in either house, is called a calling attention motion. This is also an Indian innovation. And calling attention motion is actually mentioned in Lok Sabha rules. See, two Indian innovations, 0R. 0R is not mentioned anywhere, but calling attention motion is actually mentioned in the Lok Sabha rules. So, this is calling attention motion. As the name suggests, very simple. This is what is called a calling attention motion. When the minister fails to respond to country's problems, you have to call the attention of the minister, the country's issues and concerns. This is a real photograph, not a Photoshop photograph. So, anyway, now basically, Dr. Tharoor also said that he could not hear Supriya Sule properly, and that is why he had come closer to hear her. But anyway, so what is calling attention? It gives the members an opportunity to bring to surface the failure of or inadequate action of government on a matter of urgent public importance. So basically, you can get up and raise a motion. Sir, I raise a motion. I want to bring to attention the minister. What is he or she doing with respect to a certain topic that is in his or her domain? And then the minister will have to respond. That's it. This is called a calling attention motion. And this is again an Indian innovation. It has been there since 1954. Lastly, a censure motion. Censure motion is a motion which is used only in the Lok Sabha. Okay. This censure motion can be used only in the Lok Sabha, not in the Rajya Sabha. Basically, what happens is if I, as an MP, am not happy with the government's performance or a single or individual minister's performance in certain area, then I can raise a motion and I have to give reasons also, specific ground, meaning reason has to be given. Why am I not satisfied with the MP's or minister's performance? What is the problem that I am facing? Right? Why do I want the government to respond? Why am I criticizing the government? And then if I raise this motion and the house approves it, yes, yes, you are absolutely correct, useless fellow, then what happens? If it is passed, it amounts to severe reprimand. What is reprimand? Reprimand means to scold, criticize, or formally scold. So don't think that if this censure motion is passed, minister has to resign and all. Nothing happens. Or don't think that if the calling a censure motion is passed against a minister, he's called in front of the house, kneel down, hold your ears and all. Nothing happens. It is just accepted that the house has collectively scolded the person. That's it. It makes no sense. What is scolding to our politicians? Do you think this works? Scolding never works to our politicians. I'll give you a simple anecdote. You know, back in 1940s, when we had the interim government, Nehru being the prime minister and Patel being the deputy prime minister at that point of time. So Nehru and Patel had very opposing views on a lot of things. And Nehru once wrote a letter to Patel saying that if you feel I am not fit to be the prime minister, I'll resign. To which Patel responded saying that, no, why are you resigning? I will resign. Those were the days of those politicians. In today's day and age, this is unthinkable. A politician will say, you have some problem with me, you resign because you have a problem. Why should I resign? That is how politics has changed over the course of 60, 70 years. Right? So anyway, so these motions are this is complete waste of time, censure motion. What happens if it is passed? Nothing happens. Will the minister resign? No. Will the government resign? No. It is just that it is taken as a formal scolding of the government. Right? That is what happens. Nothing more, nothing less. So that is all as far as all these motions are concerned. Now solve this question first and then we'll proceed. 30 seconds. Please mark the answer. %56 have marked C, 35% marked B. Meaning you are saying A is wrong. Okay. There is no mention of no confidence motion in the constitution. Yes or no? Of course, this statement is correct. No confidence motion is not mentioned in the constitution. I had very clearly said that motions are not mentioned in the constitution. They are mentioned in Lok Sabha rules. In fact, I mentioned also here, no confidence motion is mentioned under Lok Sabha rule number 198. See, it is not mentioned in the constitution. So the statement is actually correct. It's not wrong. One is correct. These two can't be the answers. A motion of no confidence can be introduced in the Lok Sabha only. Of course, both are correct. C is the right answer. That is with respect to no confidence motion. Okay. Lastly, resolution. We know what is resolution. Resolution is what? Substantive motion. Substantive motion is called resolution. We had just seen it before the break. Substantive motion. So, if any resolution is brought by a non-minister, we call it a private member resolution. If it is brought by the minister, it is called a government resolution. And if a resolution is brought under the provisions of the constitution, for example, Article 67B, Article 61. What are all these things? These are all resolutions being brought under the provisions of some article, some provision. They are called statutory resolutions. That's it. So, resolutions are basically formal proposals, and they are always followed by voting. So not every motion requires voting. Adjournment motion, no voting. Privilege motion, no voting. Right? Some motions don't require voting. Other motions, calling attention motion, no voting is required. But other motions require voting. So any motion which requires voting and is a very formal kind of motion is called a resolution. Okay? So that is all as far as these motions and resolutions are concerned. Now we'll look into the passage of the budget, annual financial statement. SIAN, okay. Is censure motion and parliamentary privilege same? No, censure motion is used against minister or government. Parliamentary privilege or privilege motion is used against any member of the house. What else do we have? Is it same it happened to TN on governor's speech? See, in the case of Tamil Nadu for RN Ravi, so RN Ravi was also partially wrong. He did not read the exact speech that was given to him by the chief minister. But MK Stalin was also wrong. When the governor is sitting on his seat, you can't misbehave and start passing a motion against him. That is not right. You are criticizing the conduct of governor in the house only. That is not nice. Both were wrong. So that is there, Siva. I think it is addressed. Okay. Can speaker reject? Yes, yes, speaker can reject no confidence motion. No problem there. What else do we have? Privilege motion, no. Shalu, privilege motion is something where you only have the speaker or the chairman to decide. That's it. Sushmit, resolution is a type of motion. Substantive motion is a resolution, right? And statutory resolution, Sayadri, basically any resolution which is being brought under pursuance of a provision of the constitution. For example, under Article 67B, it is mentioned clearly that we'll move a resolution to remove the vice president. That is called a resolution. That is called a statutory resolution. Okay. Ravi, sir, if a media channel says something negative, media channel, privilege motion can be used against only the MPs. If you want to punish the media people or outsiders, there is a separate provision for that. Touched by mistake. What can we do? Calling attention. See, basically, what is going to happen is, if you want an MP or minister to respond to some kind of shortcoming in his government department or ministry, then you can ask the minister to respond. That is called calling attention. I am calling into attention of the minister some shortcoming in his own department. You please respond. What is happening in your department? Tell us. That is called calling attention. So this is with respect to calling attention. Oh, see, Shalu, 5 questions can be asked. No, Shalu, not 5 questions. Sorry. Please understand, there's a difference, Shalu. You are saying that only 5 questions can be asked. Any number of supplementary questions can be asked. 5 actually means you can only ask 5 questions. In the question hour, you can only give notice for asking 5 questions. But if you ask one question, under that question, you can ask any number of supplementary questions. It's different. I can ask only 5 questions on a given day, right? But when I'm asking a supplementary question, I can ask any number of supplementary questions. That number 5 is very clearly mentioned in the Lok Sabha rules. That number 5 is for the maximum number of questions that can be asked by any MP in one given day. So for every question, you give a notice, right? You can only give 5 notices for 5 questions. If you give 6 questions, then one question will be asked next day, right? But if you are allowed to ask one question, within that, there is no limit on how many supplementary questions can be asked. I hope this point is clear now. Okay, that is there. Now let's move on and understand. Oh, motion of thanks. Let's move on and understand the budget. See, motion of thanks, Shiv, is very simple. Motion of thanks basically means that the president's speech, because it's a government speech, it has to be discussed in the house. Every word the government has told the president to recite, we have to discuss that. You are simply listing the achievements of the government. Are those achievements actually true? Does the parliament believe in it? Or you are just simply asking the president to just lie on the house that the government is the best government, everything is amazing. So that is why discussion takes place on the president's speech. And after discussion, it is approved by the House. It is mandatory for the Lok Sabha to approve that particular speech. Statutory resolution is binding on government. What is the relationship between motion and government? Motions or resolutions take place in the House, right? It is the opinion of the House, not on the government. Government is separate. Motion speech. No. Motion speech is every year, because every year you have a budget, first session. So on that day, president gives a speech, and every president's speech has to be voted upon. So every year also, and once after 5 years, when new Lok Sabha is elected, then also. So once every 5 years, and also every year after budget speech. Okay, that is there with respect to the motions. Now, Shiva, who writes the data of most statements? Of course, you have people who are writing there, shorthand typists and all. There is selection examination which takes place. You can fill up the form, get selected, and just write there. Okay, typists and shorthand typists are there who write all these things. You please clear UPSC. Don't worry on all these things, right? That is, I think, Group B or Group C post, but you are preparing for UPSC, so ignore that. What happens if MP is suspended? For the time being you are suspended, you don't get the allowance and all. It is not nice. It is very shameful, right? So that is there. In the school days, if you are suspended, it was a great achievement. Oh, suspended. All people are looking at you. Oh, cool fellow. But when you grow up, you realize that it is very stupid to get suspended. So don't think of suspension that happens in our school. It is very different here. It is very shameful that you are punished by the house. Next time when you come in the house, it is slightly shameful. So, but apart from it, nothing happens. If our politicians are shameless, then no problem. Now, coming to annual financial statement. So this word annual financial statement, firstly, let me tell you that the popular term for it in the constitution is budget. This word budget is not mentioned in the constitution. In the constitution, they mention this word annual financial statement, not budget, but it is commonly known as budget. Now, you already know, you must have discussed in your economics classes on the new budget. We also have a video on the new budget. But I'll just explain how this budget is passed in the parliament, the polity side of things. So, firstly, what is a budget? It is a statement of estimated receipt. Receipt means what? Money being received, and expenditure, money being spent by the central government for that financial year. So, the statement of estimated receipt and expenditure by government of India, government of India in the or for the financial year, for the financial year. And let me tell you, if in case you do not know, financial year does not start from January and December. Financial year is 1st of April to 31st of March. This is the financial year, not January to December. Now, who prepares the budget? First thing. So, preparation of budget. Budget is prepared by the Ministry of Finance. So, in the Ministry of Finance, there is a division, there is a department called Department of Economic Affairs. Under that department, there is a division called Budget Division. So, prepared by Budget Division under Department of Economic Affairs. In the Ministry of Finance. So, this is the ministry, department, and the division which prepares the budget. So, basically, Ministry of Finance has 6 different departments. Department of Department of Expenditure, Department of Revenue, Department of Financial Services, Department of Investment and Public Asset Management, DPUM, Department of Public Enterprises, Department of Economic Affairs. 6 departments are there. Right. So, now, when is the budget presented? Presentation date. So, earlier, the budget used to be presented on the last working day of February. But this government has modified it. And now, the budget is presented on the first working day of February. For example, in 2023, it was the 1st of February. Okay. And what is the time? 11 a.m. This also since 1999 only. Before 1999, we used to present the budget at 5 p.m. How silly of us. Why? Because back in 1924, one Britisher, Sir Basil Blackett, he gave this funda. He said that, before the budget presentation, all our officers are tired and all. They wake up late in the morning. We can't ask them to present the budget in the morning. Let's present at 5 p.m. in the evening. But the real reason was that in UK government used to present the budget in the morning, right? And that timing was evening in India. So they wanted to tally the timing. So forcing us into presenting our budget in the evening. And we continued this practice without even asking relevant questions. From 1948 to 1998, we used to read the budget in the evening. Makes no sense. The house starts in the morning. Finally, in 1999, under the BJP government, NDA government, the first finance minister, Yashwant Sinha, who actually was a candidate against Draupadi Murmu in the election of the president, he became the first finance minister to table the budget at 11 a.m. Logically sound also, because our house sittings start at 11 a.m. That is how it happened. Apart from this, one more important information that you should know is the railway budget. So there was a concept that was there. Merger of railway budget with general budget. So as I was saying, there used to be a concept of railway budget. So back in 1920-21, there was a committee formed. This information is not really important. It's very old information now, called Ackworth Committee. This committee of 1920-21, it gave a recommendation that, back in the British times or the British Indian times, what was happening was Britishers had no interest in spending in our country on things like education, right? Things like healthcare and all. All their spending was being done on what? All their spending was being done on activities like railways, because they had to take resources from India and transfer it to Britain. So they spent a lot on railways. In fact, in 1920, it was observed that of the 100 rupees being spent, 84 rupees was spent on railway only. That is why the Ackworth Committee said, why don't we have a separate railway budget and separate general budget? So based on their recommendation, a separate rail budget used to be presented. This process continued. Finally, in 2016, one Bibek Devroy committee was set up. This committee was asked to look into whether we can combine these two or not. And this committee said, yes, of course we can combine these two. There is no logic in having separate budgets. Why? Because this committee said that, see, in 1920s, we were spending a lot on railways. But nowadays, we are spending way more on defense, petroleum, etc. So now the railway ministry does not get a very huge amount. So there is no need to have a separate railway budget. And based on their recommendation, merger took place, and from 2017 we have been presenting a common general budget, meaning both the railway and the other aspects of the budget are merged together into one common budget. So that is there. This is slightly old information. It's been 5-6 years now, so maybe a prelims based question may be asked. This is the merger of the two budgets. Now, okay, solve a question first, and then we'll discuss on the passage of the budget. So please solve this question. I'll give you 45 seconds, full enjoyment of time. Mark your answer, please. Oh, sorry. Mark your answer, please. BNC. Oh, interesting. Revisions are not happening properly. The Department of Revenue is responsible for the passage of the or preparation of the budget. Of course, it is wrong. It is Department of Economic Affairs. So these two are wrong. Fair enough. Two has to be correct. It is there in both. No amount can be withdrawn from the CFI without authorization from the Parliament. Of course, it's correct. But let's come to the third point. All the disbursement made from public accounts also needs Parliament's authorization? Of course not. These are all in the nature of banking transaction. Yes or no? They don't need a parliamentary authorization. They are done through executive action. If you remember, 3 is not correct. Hence, this is wrong. C2 only is the right answer. Okay. Now, let me help you understand how this budget is actually prepared. See, for a simpler understanding, think of this situation. Let's say you have 2,000 rupees with you. If you have 2,000 rupees with you, what do? There are 3 tasks to be performed. You have to purchase some books for UPSC, you have to purchase some new clothes, and you have to also go out on a date. That's possible. Don't lose hope. There is always hope in life, right? So that's there. Now, what if you amount is limited, 2,000 rupees, and you have to do all these activities? What will you do? So you will ask your friend, please give me your notes, and you'll take a photocopy of the notes and save money. 50 rupees photocopy. Money is saved. Then for clothes, you'll ask your friend, please share the clothes. I'll give you a juice party. Don't worry. 150 rupees, juice party, money is saved. And remaining 1800, you go on a date with somebody. This is your choice, whatever you want to do. Even on the date, when you go on a date, you see the menu, you find the prices. Oh, too much. You simply say, I am fasting today. You only eat. So basically, see, everybody wants to purchase the newest of books, best of clothes, go in a 5-star hotel for a date and all. But the problem is, this amount is fixed. This is the real problem. So don't think that our government does not know the problems and they don't want to spend. The amount of revenue is fixed. The exact same thing happens with respect to our finance minister also. So what exactly happens is 5 to 6 months prior to the actual budget exercise, the Ministry of Finance will ask all the various ministries, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Social Justice, Ministry of Education, that guys, you please send me your demands. How much money do you want next year? Say Ministry of Defense wants 50,000 crores. Ministry of Social Justice also has some schemes. It wants some money. Ministry of Education has some schemes to perform. It wants money. Every ministry will send its request for demand. Then the senior cabinet ministers will sit and decide on what demands to be accepted and what to be rejected. After that, towards the end of the month of January, the Ministry of Finance is told, now you please finalize everything, prepare the details of how much money to be given to each ministry, etc., etc. And then the Ministry of Finance, the budget division, the IS officers there, the Indian Economic Service officers there, they will sit together and start preparing the budget in utmost secrecy. And the budget preparation starts with the budget halwa. So you know halwa, right? And you know also know that the Indian culture says that we have to eat something sweet. All through our school days and college days, our mothers have been forcing us to eat curd and sugar, curd and jaggery, so that we score good marks in the examination. It never works for us. It works for other people only. But that is a basic cultural thing, that you eat something sweet before you start any auspicious activity. So same thing, budget halwa is prepared. Now, don't think that a finance minister will prepare the halwa. He or she is a too big a person to prepare halwa. But they will stand with a ladle and a big kadai that, okay, I am preparing the halwa. And then halwa is given to all the officers, and then they lock themselves in and prepare the budget. On the first working day of February, if it is first, second, third, whatever date it is, the finance minister will leave her residence and will take the budget document. Now the budget document is wrapped in a red piece of clothing, right? And now the budget is not actually referred to as budget. It is called Bahi Khata by the government. So this government is calling it Bahi Khata. Same thing. This is the beauty of this government. It is not contributing to anything proper, right? But it is using all these things only, here and there, minute kind of changes. Did this government change the textbooks? It did not. Did this government start improving the quality of history being taught to students? It does not. It has no interest also. This government is taking pride in saying that we are not changing textbooks. So it is a shameful thing. What kind of history is being taught to the kids in the school? What history has been taught to us? It is all about the Delhi centric history. How will the rest of the country have any kind of connect? I mean, the entire Vijayanagar empire is left into some paragraphs. Cholas, Pandyas, some small paragraphs. A home kingdom missing completely. Martanda missing completely. This government is taking no step to revive the historical aspect of India, just doing all this kind of garnishing here and there with random changes. What can we do? We still want a country, a government which respects and revives the cultural superiority of this country. But sadly, that is completely missing. Anyway, now this finance minister comes with the Bahi Khata on the very first of February and presents the document, starts reading the document in the house. Now, when you start reading, after all, budget is also a bill. It's also a proposal, a money bill. So what do? You introduce the bill. Introduction. First stage. That is what is called budget presentation. So on the very first date, the budget is presented. And you know, on the first date, when the budget is presented, the very next day, all the newspapers are full of articles everywhere on what is to happen, what will happen, what is the budget all about, all these things. Full of articles everywhere. And that is a nightmare for our innocent aspirants, right? Now we feel every article is important. What if a UPSC question is asked from that article, this article? So that is what is the budget presentation. The very first stage is when the finance minister presents the budget. Presentation by finance minister. And see, once the budget speech is read in the house, the budget is read in the Lok Sabha, right? Because it's a money bill, it can't be introduced in Rajya Sabha. So, speech in Lok Sabha, after which copy of budget is sent to Rajya Sabha. So after the budget is read in Lok Sabha, one copy is thrown. Come on, Rajya Sabha, you also enjoy, read the budget. But please understand, Raj Sabha can only discuss on the budget. They have no power to vote on the budget. Can only discuss. No power to vote on various demands. So all these demands which are being made by our various ministries, Raj Sabha cannot vote on these demands. It can only discuss. Presentation is over. On that day, that's the task. Now starts the activity of general discussion, which happens for a few days. Okay. So for a few days, uh, general discussion takes place. So in this general discussion, most MPs in the House have no idea. They don't have technical knowledge. They are simply sitting and watching other MPs. What the hell is happening, right? What is all this? So, but some MPs who are quite knowledgeable, they will be very enthusiastic in discussing the budget. So this is no sarcasm against some engineers. I'm sure some lot of engineers would have a lot of knowledge on the budget. But anyway, so next stage is a general discussion. See here, nothing happens in detail. The parliament will discuss the overall policy of the budget. Discusses overall policy of budget. Here only they also discuss if they want to on the charged expenditure. Okay, this is the point where discussions on charge expenditure takes place. Now, after this, please understand, budget is a very wide exercise. 543 people in Lok Sabha cannot sit and discuss on these intricate details. So what happens? After around 7-8 days of discussion, the House is adjourned. Adjournment done by presiding officer. Date is fixed. The houses are adjourned for 3 to 4 weeks. So now what happens? See, MPs don't go back home to the constituencies. They are there only. Next stage is called a committee stage. Okay. The committee stage means what? Now please understand. This entire budget is a very vast exercise. In the budget, you have various ministries. Ministry of Defense, it has so many demands. Ministry of Power, it has so many demands. Ministry of Education, it has so many schemes and programs, so many demands. All these are there. Okay. But then what happens? All these ministries, their demands are broken down into various parts. And we have some committees. These committees are called departmentally related standing committees. What is a standing committee? We had seen yesterday. Standing committee is a permanent committee. So these are called DRSCs, departmentally related standing committees. We have 24 such committees. All these various parts of the budget are sent to various DRSCs. Okay, 24 DRSCs. In these DRSCs, there are 21 MPs from Lok Sabha and 10 MPs from Rajya Sabha. Okay, now what happens? This entire budget is broken down to various parts, and all these MPs, let's say there are 10-20 MPs who are experts in law, that law ministry's budget is sent there. 10-20 MPs experts in education, education ministry's demand is sent there. And now these MPs will start discussing on that particular small aspect of budget and prepare reports. DRSCs discuss on the budget, prepare reports, and after preparing the report, submit to the parliament. Basically, they submit to the presiding officer. Okay. Now these reports are sent to various presiding of the various committees send these reports to the presiding officer. Now once the MPs get all these reports, now the MPs can start discussing and fighting and arguing. These reports help MPs in detailed discussion on various demands. Now, herein lies the next stage. After a couple of 3 or 4 weeks, all the MPs meet again to vote on the demand for grants. For example, the MPs met again. Today is what? Today is 19, 12, 13th of last Monday only. This time on 13th of March, MPs met again. The session started again. After the adjournment of the session, the date was fixed at 13th. So they met on 13th again. So started on 13th of March 2023. Basically, now all the MPs sitting in the Lok Sabha will start approving all these demands. And you have roughly 10-15 days left to approve the demands. So voting on demands takes place. Demands are approved by the MPs. Now, of course, MPs can raise their own concerns. Cut motions can be raised. So what are cut motions? Basically, cut motions are motions raised or proposals raised to reduce demands. Okay. These are raised to reduce or rationalize the demands. Okay. Now, what are the types of cut motions? Various types are there. Types. First and very generic kind of cut motion is an economy cut motion. Now, I'll give you a simple example. See, let's say Ministry of Education here, Ministry of Education, it has launched a new scheme. It says, in our country, a lot of kids in the midday meals don't get proper diet of protein. And that is the reason we want to provide 1 scoop of protein powder to every kid in their midday meal. And they are calling this scheme Pradhan Mantri Body Builder Yojana. This is a new scheme that the Education Ministry has thought of, Body Builder Yojana. And they say We want, please give us 10,000 crore rupees so that we can provide one scoop of protein powder to every kid in the school. Now the MPs can say, what kind of scheme is this? And why do you want one scoop of protein powder? A small kid may not need 28 grams of protein powder. Or you can also say, where are you purchasing this protein powder from? Which company? Government says, we have planned to purchase from Gold Standard, On, Optimum Nutrition. MPs say, why don't you purchase from local? Am I audible, guys? Okay, okay. So as I said, the MPs can simply ask, why do you need to give a full scoop of protein powder? You can simply give half scoop of protein powder, save the money. So basically, you are saving the money. That is called economy cut motion. It represents what? Wasteful expenditure. Wasteful expenditure. And if somebody raises the motion and it is approved, then the demand can be reduced by a certain amount. Demand can be reduced by certain amount. But don't worry, demands are never reduced. Why? Because these demands are being voted in Lok Sabha. In Lok Sabha, government has majority. It will never be reduced. But sometimes it may be reduced. I'll give you a better example from your personal life. Let's say you want a iPhone 14 Pro Max, whatever. Now, you go to your father and ask him or her, ask him saying, Dad, I want iPhone, right? Please give me an iPhone. Your father says, iPhone, really? But now your father will not start beating you immediately. He'll say, okay, let's do one thing. You have to only watch YouTube shorts and Instagram, right? Why don't you purchase some other phone? Why don't you? What is the need to purchase iPhone Pro? Purchase iPhone 14. So your father is trying to rationalize the expenditure. Why the need to purchase 1.3 lakh rupees phone? Purchase a 75 lakh rupees phone, 1000 rupees phone, basic, or purchase some other company phone, right? The purpose is to only waste time and watch some YouTube shorts only, right? Purchase that phone. So he's not rejecting the demand. He's only trying to rationalize the expenditure. That is called economic cut, right? Now, I have also said that this motion is being done or being conducted in which house? In the Lok Sabha. So in the Lok Sabha, who has the majority? Government has the majority. Do you think any demand will be accepted, such reduction? Of course not. But let us think of this kind of bodybuilder yojana. What if the opposition says, what kind of scheme is this? You are forcing kids to eat protein powder. This is a very bad scheme. Tomorrow, the next generation will all be bodybuilders only, no studies, only going to gym, fighting, beating each other, right? Or maybe so much of protein powder at a young age could damage their kidneys. One great actor of our generation says that it takes 3 years for protein powder to digest. That's not possible, but anyway, that's what he said. So, anyway, the opposition says, we don't like this scheme. You please remove the scheme. Government says, to hell with you. We will make this scheme work. Sorry. But as an opposition member, I want my grievance to be registered somewhere. So I will raise a token cut motion wherein I will say that, see, I am telling you, this scheme is bad. Don't launch this scheme. So this motion is raised to ventilate a specific grievance. A specific grievance with a program or a scheme. with a program or a scheme. Now, we know very well that this token cut motion cannot be approved. Opposition is trying to raise a motion to remove a scheme made by government in the Lok Sabha where government has majority. No chance. So I want to get my disapproval registered. So I will raise a motion, reduce the demand by 100 rupees. By 100 rupees. From 10,000 crores, if you remove 100 rupees, does it make any kind of change? No change is there, but still my opposition to the scheme has been registered. For example, your father says, okay, I am giving you 70,000 rupees, purchase iPhone. But your mom says, see, don't give him any phone. He or she will only waste time watching some videos and will make TikTok reels here and there, dancing here and there on the road. I'm telling you, don't give the phone. But your father says, oh no, let him have the phone. But your mom says, see, I'm telling you, don't give the phone. If you give the phone, I am not responsible if next year he or she fails in the preliminary examination. It is totally up to you. So she is ventilating her grievance, saying that you are forcing, you are trying to spoil this kid. Don't give a phone. I am not okay with this. Same thing happened with the opposition. Now, this is just one scheme or program. Let us say the government says, or the opposition says, what kind of budget is this? This entire budget is useless. Every scheme, every program, everything is a piece of nonsense. What kind of budget have you prepared? Pro-rich budget. Where is the budget for poor? So the opposition is saying that your entire budget is a bogus exercise. We don't like the budget only. Which scheme? Every scheme is wrong. They are disapproving the entire policy of the budget only. Disapproval of policy cut motion, meaning the entire budget is a wasteful exercise. You are wasting people's money. And the point here is it shows disapproval with underlying policy of the budget. I mean, the opposition members are saying that every scheme is wrong, everything is bogus. How much money do you want? Government says, please give us 120 lakh crores. The Lok Sabha says, okay. You want how much? 120 lakh crores? Entire demand is reduced to how much? Rupee 1. The government, the Lok Sabha says, you want 120 lakh crores, take 1 rupee, go enjoy. Now, think of this. You go to your father and say, I want a mobile phone. Your father says, how much money? 75,000. Your father says, you want phone? Take 10 rupees. Go and purchase as many iPhones as you want. With 1 rupee, how many phones will you purchase? What kind of joke is this? So government wants 120 lakh crores and Lok Sabha is only authorizing 1 rupee. What happens? I mean, see, if the government was like Shivaji the boss, then with 1 rupee also, they could achieve wonders. But nobody is Rajnikant. So of course, this means what? This means a bigger question. How can such a proposal be passed in the Lok Sabha? How can the Lok Sabha reject the budget? In the Lok Sabha, government has majority. You cannot reject a budget in the Lok Sabha. How did this motion get passed only after voting? It can never be passed. If this motion is passed, it goes on to show that the government has lost the confidence. If it is passed, it amounts to no confidence motion. It amounts to NCM. But don't worry, this motion will never be passed. It's not possible. Governments always enjoy the majority. Governments always enjoy the majority in the Lok Sabha. It is just a way that if it happens at some point of time, maybe it will be passed. So this is there with respect to the various cut motions. After all this drama happens, then the voting takes place, and slowly and steadily all the demands are accepted, approved, passed, and then the demands are passed by the Lok Sabha. And demands are passed using various kind of various kind of motions which are called closure motions. Now, coming to a topic we had left, closure motions. So what is this closure motion? Very simple to understand. Let's say Ministry of Defense, so many demands are there. Yes or no? Ministry of Education, so many demands are there. Yes or no? Ministry of Power, so many demands are there. Yes or no? Okay. Now, when it comes to simple closure, what is simple closure? I will discuss a particular scheme or program. All the MPs discuss, they are happy, they approve it. Voting on matter takes place after debate is complete. So we discuss, do we all agree on this particular scheme? Yes, ayes, passed. Second, discussion on this. Do we all agree on the scheme? Ayes, passed. But sometimes certain types of because see, we have to also pass the budget very quickly because a lot of time is not left. We have to pass the budget before 31st of March. So what we'll do is, to quickly pass the budget, we sometimes club certain schemes together and we discuss both of them together and pass it together. Closure by compartment. The clauses of a bill or a lengthy resolution are grouped into parts and entire matter is discussed and passed together. Closure by compartment. Discussed and passed together. Discussed and passed together. Okay, this is what happens. Then kangaroo closure. Now, what is kangaroo closure? Every year, you know very well that lot of schemes are repeated. Narega. Narega is a scheme which has been there since 2008. So we don't have to discuss in detail on the pros and cons of Narega. So not every scheme requires discussion. New schemes have to be discussed. So we'll skip the discussion on the old schemes and we'll discuss only new schemes. So we'll discuss this, discuss this, discuss this, jump here, discuss this, discuss this, discuss this, discuss this. So we are jumping and skipping some old schemes and discussing only new schemes. Kangaroo closure. And lastly, when the time comes, only 2-3 days are left. Some schemes are left to be discussed. The speaker will say, guys, should we end the debate? Should we pass everything together? People say, yes, sir, we are already getting bored. So many schemes are there. We please pass everything. All the debate is cut short and the entire matter is put to vote. Let us vote now. Do you guys agree? Should we give all the money to the government? MPs say, ayes, please. And the money is given. This is what is various closure motions. Don't worry, nobody's going to ask a question on this, but that is how these motions are used basically to expedite the passage of the budget. So this is with respect to the closure motions, right? Now, let's do one thing very quickly. Let's take a very short break. Be back at 5 minutes of break. Would it be okay, or we need 10 minutes of break? Quickly tell me. Let's take a vote. 10 seconds, please. A, 5 minutes. B, 10 minutes. A, 5 minutes. B, 10 minutes. Democracy, majority. Oh, amazing. 10 minutes. Majority has clearly voted. So we'll take a 10-minute break. Be back at 7:20. And we'll firstly discuss some answer writing points. And then we'll proceed if time remains. Break, please. Break till 7:20. Okay. Break, please, guys. Let's begin now. So, what we'll do is we'll spend remaining around 30-35 minutes in discussing on answer writing, and then you already have a module uploaded in your PPTs which contains some PYQs, and you can start writing answers, right? So, first up, let me add a slide here. Okay. Now, please pay attention. What I'm going to give you is some general tips on answer writing. Of course, for each of you, your issues and concerns are very personal and very subjective. They may vary a lot. But these tips will help you in writing better answers, and eventually, it all boils down to uh, presenting your thoughts in the examination. If you are able to present your thoughts in a better fashion in the examination, that is all that matters, right? So no amount of knowledge is going to be sufficient if you cannot represent or reproduce that knowledge on paper. Three things that are of utmost importance. Let's start with the mandatory provisions. What is mandatory? The most important. Number one, please focus on the word limit. There is a reason for which every question has a word limit, 150, 250. You have to respect the word limit. Please do not cross the word limit. Even 5 words, no, sorry, not allowed. It will incur negative marks. The whole purpose is to represent your thoughts within a confined word frame. Number two, I'll write this point. You may feel it is very generic, but it is very, very important. Write what is asked. Of course, we write what is asked. No, 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 no. We tend to write what we know. Please don't do that. Because in our school and college days, especially college days, we were forced into filling up pages. More pages means better answer. But in the UPSC, that is of no use. It's worth nothing. If you write nonsense, it's of no importance. The question asks you on the clemency parts of, or say, on how important is it to decide on clemency petitions quickly, and you start writing, you have seen a word clemency, now start writing clemencies of 5 types, remission, respite, and start defining it. It's useless. You won't get a single mark for it. Please only write what is asked in the question. Don't start writing everything in the answer. And number three, use simple language. It is not a literature examination. There is no need to use complicated language, as simple as possible. These are three very basic elements that everybody needs to focus on. Okay. Beyond that, some other aspects that need to understand. Beyond that, then I would prefer if you write your answers in point format. Now, of course, not every answer can be written in a point format. Sometimes you don't know the points. And see, this is always going to be the vibe that you give to the evaluator. We only tend to write in paragraphs when we don't know the exact points. So always prefer writing in point format. Some questions you may not be able to write in point format. Why? Because you don't simply know the sufficient number of points. That is always going to be the case. But maybe around 14, 15 questions out of 20, You can choose to write in a point format, and some questions paragraph format, mix and match, but prefer point format. Okay. Second, now this is a very difficult thing to do, but you have to have a 360-degree approach, the AB de Villiers style of batting. What is the meaning of 360-degree approach? Try to link your point to as many topics as possible. There should be some economic ramification, some social angle, international angle, right? The poverty angle. As many angles you can provide to your answer, the more correlated your answer is to multiple topics, the better your answer is. Now, this will only come through reading. The more you study, right, once you start studying economics, polity, then you study social issues, then you study ethics, you can correlate more. So this will take time, but try to have correlation. Correlation. So correlate various topics. Number 3. Now, this is a very typical problem that is experienced by a lot of people, because uh, we are constantly told that you have to never criticize the government. Now, that is partially correct, partially incorrect. See, we don't have to come off as a sycophant of the government. Please immediately accept what is wrong. So, we have to accept the shortcomings in the system, that is in the administration, in the country. Don't be in denial mode. See, this country is not the best. It can become the best. That's what we are aiming for. We know our shortcomings, definitely. Accept the shortcomings. But when you accept shortcomings, you have to, very important, exhibit a positive frame of mind. When I say exhibiting a positive frame of mind, we don't have to sound like some Hindu columnist who is only finding faults in this country. No, no, no. See, when I say positive frame of mind, you have to accept the shortcomings. You have to be a problem solver. Meaning, they are looking for somebody who can act as a problem solver. Nobody expects you to give the best solutions on the spot. That's there. But that positive bent of mind means you have to be a problem solver, offer solutions, meaning offer solutions to issues in the country. So whenever you are raising some issues, flagging some problems, you should always suggest some improvements. Now, when you are offering solutions, some things have to be kept in mind. You know, I don't know how many of you have seen this movie. There's a movie called Rang De Basanti, a very old movie, and it had a lot of popular stars from the Hindi industry, from the Tamil industry, Madhavan, Siddharth, Amir Khan, etc. Now, in that movie, Siddharth, this actor, he constantly cribs about India, constantly cribs about India. India is a very bad country, very bad, always. So there's a scene where all these people are sitting in some kind of pub or some kind of restaurant, where Madhavan, who is playing an Air Force officer, he says that, see, no country is great, but we have to make it great. India has its problems, but we have to improve upon those problems. We can't simply sit and criticize here and there. That is a very important line. And you have to also inculcate that same element in your answers. Your answers have to reflect that attitude that I am here to give you solutions. And as I said, when you're a problem solver, there's a very important element involved. Please stay neutral. It is my earnest request to you, stay neutral. Whether you have hatred towards BJP, Congress, Aam Aadmi Party, whether you have undying love towards the party, I don't care. It should not reflect in your answer, firstly. Secondly, in general, also in life, stay neutral. You never know what is the reality because we are only shown a very limited perspective. So it is always better not to closely attach ourselves with any kind of viewpoint. That is the whole point of being liberal. You're open to other person's point of view. So stay neutral. And that also reflects in the type of words we use in the answers. For example, say police. I have to talk about the police being corrupt, right? We all know police is largely very corrupt. We all see this happening on a daily basis. I'm sure most of you have paid bribes also. But see, the point is you can't write like this. Police is corrupt. No, no. Choice of words. You will say, it is largely believed that police is corrupt. In popular public perception, police is corrupt. Why should I blame? Who am I to blame somebody randomly? I won't blame anyone. I will throw this blame on somebody else. People say I am a nice person. I only use nice words, right? People say police is corrupt. People say there is nepotism in judiciary. I am not saying it. Until and unless you are backing something with facts, please make sure your choice of words will reflect the reality that you think. So please be very careful. Stay neutral. Number two, as I said, be empathetic. Nobody wants your sympathy. People want empathy. What is empathy? Can you actually feel what the other person is going through? Try to be in somebody else's shoes and then think from their perspective. For example, I'll take the same police example. We largely say police is incompetent, lower level police. Really, are they incompetent? Are they being trained for it? Is there some training being done? No. The same policeman has to work for 24 hours back to back for various days. And then you expect the same policeman to perform his tasks with the best of ability. It is inhuman to have such expectations. Empathy is important. When you start pointing solutions and suggestions, you have to be very, very sure that am I able to actually understand? I want digital literacy everywhere. Please understand, there are crores of people who are not educated, not literate. You want to provide every kind of service through e-governance only. Is it logistically possible? No. Don't give such solutions. Be realistic. It is difficult. People in this country do believe in religion, caste, etc. That's the reality of life. So the more real you are, the more understanding you are, the better your answers become. Because if you are too cut off from society, it will sound like somebody has mugged up some points from some random place and an armchair activist is writing the answer. So it does not reflect nicely. And number three, your answers have to always reflect larger social good. If it comes at choosing the good of few and good of society, you will always have to prefer the larger good of the society. Okay. Prefer larger good of society. In fact, if you very keenly look into your service rules also, it mentions every civil servant has to be committed towards improving the life of the poorest of the poor. That is your commitment role, right? In your governance syllabus, there's a topic called role of civil services. In that, there is a role of commitment also. Your service rules very clearly say that every civil servant has to be committed towards the upliftment of the poorest of the poor in the country. Your answers have to reflect that. And for all these things, there's a phrase used, very popular. We say you should try to align your viewpoint with that of the Constitution. So, in short, align your views with that of the Constitution. This is what you have to do. Please never make any kind of remark which goes against the Constitution. Maybe you feel it is improper, incorrect, some things may be wrong. Don't make that remark in the answer. See, we fully agree that the politicians, especially in the previous 60, 70 decades, 6, 7 decades have completely, uh, uh, have been lopsided in depicting our history, in depicting our culture. We see Supreme Court judgments constantly being very harsh towards the Indic cultures and the cultural elements of our country, always finding faults in everything. We can't be very extreme also now. The feeling of nationalism has to be there, but with limited effect. The balance always has to be struck, right? Once you reach the position of power and authority, then you can make some changes to restore that lost glory, etc. But right now, the balance is required. So always ensure that you never criticize the constitution. Never. It will never be appreciated by any educated person that you criticize the constitution, right? Some leaders can't be criticized. You may have a very big difference of opinion with, say, Gandhian philosophy or Ambedkar's philosophy. You can't criticize. Please don't. Now, beyond this, when you start writing answers, there is an element of hierarchy wherein what has to be improved. So let me help you understand that point here. What to focus on. So please, whenever you have any kind of doubt, dilemma on answer writing and stuff, you please visit this and find this hierarchy. Over the course of next few months, don't worry about anything else. Just worry about one and only one element. That is content. As much of content as possible in your answer. Handwriting, word limit, time limit, not word limit, time limit, handwriting, choice of words, spelling mistakes, grammar, ignore it. Your primary duty is to find out as much content as possible for every answer. Along with content, these two things will go hand in hand. Word limit. Right from your very first answer, you have to focus on these two elements. No compromise on word limit, no compromise on content. Right from the first answer, you will never cross word limit, and you will always Google search for more and more content. Focus on just this. First 50, 60 answers, don't worry on anything else. Then slowly and steadily, we'll start improving certain other areas. Like our next target is going to be improve the structure of the answer. Now, how do you improve the structure? The best way to improve is to read editorials on your own. See, please do not just rely on some CNA DNA. You have to read the editorial on your own. If you don't read the editorial on your own, you will never develop the knack of answer writing, and that will be a very, very big issue when you start reproducing words on paper. Read editorials, see how they use choice of words, see how they change their point from one point to another, see how they change their paragraph, see how they come towards the end of their article, how they conclude their article. That's what you learn. Okay. Along with this structure, you slowly and steadily start improving your language. Now, language has two elements. One is grammar. Second one is spellings. See, to avoid grammatical mistakes, it's very simple. Don't use long sentences, short sentences. Because if you start using long sentences, you will start writing in past tense, you'll end up in future tense. So the best way to prevent grammatical mistakes is to use short sentences. Okay. And as far as spellings are concerned, we have to focus on minimizing our spelling mistakes. So don't use words which you're not sure of. So when in an editorial, you have picked up some word or some phrase, read the meaning properly and then try to use it. And say you are writing an answer on polity and you have made a mistake on the spelling of sovereignty. That is a crime. The evaluator should come in your house and personally slap you for that. So please don't make such mistakes. Technical jargons cannot have spelling mistakes. After you have achieved all these things, Then focus on presentation of the answer. Presentation is where you will focus on neatness. Now, why did I not write handwriting? If you ask me, sir, is handwriting important? I would be lying if I say it is not important. Of course, it is important. Somebody who is more good looking, more presentable, you tend to ignore their mistakes. That is human tendency. I would be lying if I say that no, handwriting is not important. It is important. If somebody has a better handwriting, you tend to ignore their small mistakes in the evaluation. But the problem is we are too old now to change our handwriting. But what we can do is make our paper more neat. You have to ask your parents why did not force you into writing, improving handwriting. Maybe you can improve the handwriting of your kids now, but not yours. But you can appear more neat in the paper. Use proper spaces between the words. Don't scribble too much. In between lines, have proper spacing so that your answer appears neat. Right? So that is there. And finally, after all this is done, then focus on time limit. So this is the biggest mistake that most people do. They start with focusing on time limit. Please do not write how much time you have taken for an answer. In the first 100, 200 answers, I don't want to see that. Right? Please don't write time limit. You will be pressurizing yourself into unnecessarily forcing yourself into finishing in time. When all these things fall into place, time will automatically fall into place. So ideal time frame is around 6-7 minutes for a 10 marker answer, 150 word answer, and around maybe 10-11 minutes for a 250 word answer. That is the ideal time frame. But as I said, please don't pressurize yourself into time limit. It is the last thing to worry as of now. Please follow this hierarchy, right? This is what needs to be done. Now, some things that you need to understand. First up is generic idea. Number one, when you are writing your answers, please always write your answers in the specified format. So UPSC has a format of answer writing. There are margins on both the sides. There are margins on both the sides. Such kind of answer sheet will be available everywhere in the market. Please always write your answers in that standard answer sheet only. You have spent so much money into coaching and stuff, purchase some answer sheet copy from the market. This will help you in two things. Number one, right from the word go, you will keep on focusing on presentation and you will be very in tune in writing on that piece of paper. Secondly, it will also help you in realizing your word limit. So you can't calculate words always. We don't count 1 and 2 letter words. But let's say you're writing an answer and this is a 150 word answer. So what you are doing is you are going to write an answer and this is a page. Now, when you start writing your answer, everybody has a different word size, font size, etc. You, in the first few days that you write your answer, you will find out that maybe when I start writing, I reach my 150 words roughly here. This is where I am reaching my 150 words. This can be your mental target. Slowly and steadily, it becomes more and more accurate. After writing, say, 50-60 answers, you will know very well that, oh, I have crossed the word limit, it seems. So this is how you develop that skill of calculating word limit. And that is why I said use these answer sheets only. Of course, some other things like using the pen, fix one pen. Because I say pen, you will say pen is a very basic thing, but no, it is very important. Why? Because one very important element of this examination is writing speed. Trust me, it is very, very important. If you have a slow writing speed, you will not be able to finish the paper. And that is one of the biggest impediment that people face when scoring good marks. I knew the answer, could not write two questions. Two questions? That's worth 30 of marks, right? 30 marks, you could have gotten at least 10, 15 or 20 marks there. Your rank could have improved from 100 to 10. So don't miss out on questions. You have to write roughly 4,000 words in 180 minutes. This is a huge challenge, huge challenge. Think, plan the answer in the mind, keep on writing. It requires a lot of practice. Writing speed has to increase. If your writing speed is very slow, the first thing is please avoid using an ink pen. See, the fountain pen has a lot of friction on the paper, so it slows you and improves your handwriting, but it comes at the cost of your speed. If your speed is slow, use a ballpoint pen. And don't worry, any kind of pen will be okay in the paper because the paper is of very good quality. There's no blotting and all. It will not happen. No blotting happens. You can use V5, V7, any kind of pen you can use, but prefer sticking to a pen and always get the get into the zone of writing answers. When you're writing an answer, don't take it casually. It is not a casual exercise. It's a very serious exercise. Prepare and keep a separate notebook for every GS paper, every topic, and you write all the answers there only, right? Please respect the process, and then the process is going to respect you. Okay. So, uh, prefer a ballpoint pen or V5, V7, depending on an average speed. But I would normally dissuade people from using ink pens and all because, what if it starts blotting there and all? It will not blot on the paper. What if the ink pen starts leaking and all? So that can be a problem. Anyway, now coming to the basic structure that you should follow, a very generic kind of structure. So there are two types of questions in the examination: 150-word questions and 250-word questions. See, the typical structure is introduction, body, body, and conclusion. Now, how and what is going to be the limit? See, your introduction is just a way to express a particular point. Don't write an intro of 100 words. In a 150-word question, 20 words of intro. That's it. In a 250-word question, it can go to 30 words also. The meat of your answer is the body. That's where you write all the points. Now, conclusions are always difficult to write because conclusion, you want to end an answer on high, impress the evaluator, impress him or her. A very easy way out: in your conclusion, always prefer that your conclusion should be some kind of way forward, meaning some kind of suggestion. If you always tend to write suggestions, it will save you from thinking on something very creative. Because be realistic, 20 different questions on 20 different topics, you can't create something on the spot, and you can't mug up so many quotations also. That is why conclusion should normally be a way forward. Best conclusion is the way forward only. Otherwise, if you are not offering a way forward, then conclusion has to be very limited. You can maybe write 30 to 35 words of conclusion if you're offering some suggestion, and in a 250-word question it could go to 45 to 50 words. But this is only if you are giving some suggestions. Otherwise, minimize it. And this is how your structure should be, a very generic pattern. Now, structures can keep on changing. You can try to use different flow charts, etc., etc., to improve your answer. But as I said, let's say there's a 150-word question and you have a lot of points. The idea is to write as many points as possible. Don't elaborate examples. For example, let's say there's a discussion on governors' behavior in the states, and you feel governors are very biased for the center, and you want to give examples. Don't write, in the case of Tamil Nadu, R.N. Ravi. Just write Tamil Nadu. Example, R.N. Ravi, Tamil Nadu. Example, Arif Muhammad Khan, Kerala. Just give names. It is sufficient. Don't explain examples. Nobody is bothered to hear the examples and all. They know it. They want to know whether you know it or not. Can you correlate or not? And that is why, if you have too much of information, use flowcharts, write articles. Now, let's say you want to write, the Council of Ministers are collectively responsible to the Lok Sabha. For all these 6 7 words, there is just 2 words: Article 75, Clause 3. That's it. No need to explain this. It is self-explanatory, right? Don't think the evaluator is a fool, and don't write useless information also. Something which is not required, I'm explaining it, too much of it, not required. So these generic things have to be kept in mind, and every answer needs to be evaluated. We have a team here. Please send your answers, get them evaluated properly, and take those evaluations seriously. And also, don't get disheartened. I'll tell you why. Number one, we have all come from schools and colleges, especially the school system, which teaches us that 99%, 98%. Look at the toppers in school. They are getting 99.8% and they have a sad face. It will not work in UPSC. Toppers in UPSC get 50% marks. Expectations have to be realistic. Okay. So in a 10 marker question, 6 is an amazing score. So please be realistic. Don't feel, oh, I was given 6 marks only, I feel so bad, I'm useless, I'll stop preparing. No, no, no. 5, 4 marks are very good marks. Okay. So have realistic expectations. Now, second thing, the summary of all this is just one. And what is a summary? The summary is, if you want to improve, there is only one summary here: practice. See, you will say, sir, how do I start writing answers? I have never written answers. Really? Can anybody sitting here ever dare to claim that you have not written answers? Right from our school days, we are being forced into writing answers only. You can't claim I have not written an answer. You have just not written an answer in a confined frame. You know how to write answers. Don't overburden yourself, right? Don't overburden yourself with writing an exceptional answer. I'll tell you something. Uh, you know, especially in the offline classes, I do tell this to the students also, that when you show me your answer, trust me, I have never seen an amazing first answer. It is not possible only. Nobody has taught us how to write answers in this format. We are not in tune with this. It is okay. That is why we are learning, right? If you try to think, no, that when I write my first answer, it will be the best answer on the planet, it will never happen. You will never write only. Please write. You will improve slowly and steadily. You have to start from somewhere. Don't have this burden of expectation that I will only write good answers. It will never happen. You will start with bad answers. When you go to a gym, you start lifting 5 kg plates, right? 2.5 kg plates, sometimes an empty barbell also. It's okay. You cannot compare your starting point with somebody's end point. Okay, be realistic. Practice. 1 or 2 answers, PYQs, and we already have recorded answers of previous year questions on your tablet. I think I have only recorded those videos. Please look at all those PYQs and try to solve those answers, write those answers on your own. It is going to be extremely important. Okay. And one more thing. I have written this intro, body, conclusion. Don't write this in your answer, intro, body. These words need not be written. It is self-explanatory and understood that these things are there. And don't miss any mock test. Weekly mock tests, very important. Please address all those concerns, write all those answers. Okay. And don't write from random places and all. Because sometimes, random places will have very uh, unique kind of questions which will have no probability of being asked in the examination, right? So that is all as far as answer writing is concerned. I hope you will keep these points in mind, keep on revisiting these points over and over again, and expect an improvement in answer writing within the next 3 to 4 months if you practice on a regular basis. If you are randomly writing answers, nothing will improve. One day I wrote 4 answers, after 20 days again 2 answers. No, make it consistent. Okay. So all the weekly mock tests that you have, the weekly tests that you have, PYQs, that is your first target. Okay. Write as many answers from there as possible. From the next class onwards, we'll also incorporate the PYQ mains questions in our PPTs. So like we have uploaded today in one PPT separately, from next class onwards, we'll have it in the class only. Okay. So that is going to be sufficient. That is all now for me. So let's end our discussion here only. That's all for me, guys. Jai Hind. I'll take your questions now. And as I said, revise. This is a very long journey, and I always appreciate people who are taking this the weekend batch, because you have an advantage actually. The advantage is that you have summarized the entire topics on Saturday and Sunday, difficult, and now you have the entire week to study. Please utilize this kind of method to study, and study properly. Revisions are very important, right? You are going to get the best job in this country. Look at the current situation in this country, right? Look at our politicians, look at even those bureaucrats. They are doing nothing to improve the our situation in this country, right? We have to change the system. We have to improve it. This is not what this country was meant to be, right? We are meant to be at a very better place. And for that, you need to get into the system. You need to have power to make any kind of visible change. For that, you need to put in the effort. Just discipline and perseverance. That is all that is required. Okay. Questions, please. Yes, Yashika, you can write initially helping with the help of PPTs and all. How many answers? Maybe one or two answers every day, right? That would be sufficient. 2, 3, not more than that. Okay. Shalu, V5, V7 is based on thickness, I think. That's the only difference. V7 is slightly more thicker, V5 is thinner. Now I'm giving you tips on using pens and all. V7 basically is used by those people who have a slightly neater handwriting, because it's a very thick pen, right? So it always draws very thick lines. So you have to have very neat handwriting to use V7. It's like, no, if this is V5, then maybe this would be V7. That kind of difference. Anyway. Effective revision, Neil. See, effective revision basically refers to reading the slides again and again and trying to solve questions. Find some questions online. You have this Lakshmikant's book on objective polity. Solve that. So the more questions you solve, the more you force your brain into retaining information. Get your family members, friends to ask you questions from slides randomly. Any kangaroo closure. See, any kangaroo closure basically means that, let's say there are a lot of schemes that are old schemes. Do you really think that we should discuss the old scheme again and again? No point, right? So we skip those discussions and we assume that those schemes are approved. Let's say Narega. Narega is there for the past 15 years. Why do you discuss the pros and cons of Narega? So when speaker asks, Narega allotment is 50,000 crores, should we pass? Yes, sir, pass. That is what is kangaroo closure. How frequently NCM? We have had only 26, 27 of them so far. So it is very rare now. Nowadays, in the last 15, 20 years, it has happened only once, right? Toppers books on answer writing, I don't think it is a right time right now. Focus on building your own style of answer writing. Everybody has a very peculiar and very subjective type of answer writing style. Develop your own style, your own information, your own style, because you have your own set of uh, strengths and weaknesses. Yes, you can use gel pen and any such kind of pen. No worries on that. Closure by compartment, Rani and Shalu. What we'll do is, let's say there are 2 or 3 schemes which are very similar to each other. So we'll club them together, and I'll ask the house, should we pass scheme A, B, and C? House says, ayes, pass. We have clubbed various schemes together and have passed them all at once. This saves time, because eventually you want to pass the budget before 31st of March, right? So that is why we are saving time. So closure by compartment, clubbing various schemes and policies together and approving them at the same time. In policy cut motion, it talk about particular policy, but entire policy of the budget. not particular scheme, entire policy of the budget. Neil, if you keep on attending all the batches only, then when will you revise? The biggest issue is going to be revision. You have to revise. Revision has to take place on your own. And if you don't revise, you will completely forget what was the context in which I made a statement. Let's say you're attending a morning batch and you don't revise. You will completely forget after 10 days what was the context in which the faculty made a particular statement. So immediate revision 3, 4, 5 times is very important, right? A thinner pen would be slightly better. It makes for a more neat answer. See, Anshu, and those who feel that going through Lakshmikant, chapter 22 for Parliament, it depends on you. If you feel that, no, I need to study a book and only then will I retain information, go for it. Okay, so I believe that's all, guys. You have your mentors, subject experts who will keep on addressing your concerns. Let's meet on the next week. Till then, that's all for me, guys. Jai Hind.